Now claiming responsibility for these attacks on the worshippers who were gathered in Tanta and Alexandria. And I want to warn you, some of the video you're about to see is graphic. We began in Tanta, where the first blast abruptly cut off the video that was during a televised mass.
Hi friends, this is Capun Piso. April 9th, 2017, a Sunday, so-called Palm Sunday. I want to explain to you where all of this comes from.
Please keep this factual truth at all times, and then you'll understand the why of the psychopathy in the world today, the genocide. God believe it's a brain HIV.
Hi friends, today is the 9th of April of 2017. This is Calpun Pisa, and I want to explain today what is Palm Sunday. Where does it come from? Why Palm Sunday? And of course, you've been subjected by Christianity. There are many sects of Christianity. There are as many religions as the brain can create. And like I always say, we have to begin from the beginning. We have to realize that we are simply evolved mutated primates. We create thoughts with the brain. This is what we're thinking with. We are not born believing in anything. So, we have to start from the beginning. The beginning is that since we evolved millions and millions of years ago, we began to use our brain to think with. And we create civilizations, we create all kind of religions and ideas and practically everything with our brain, by thinking. We evolved. This is a user manual here. We have to know how to use the brain. Well, in ancient cultures, the ancients had a brain. And they were always wondering about nature. They were wondering about all kinds of things. Who am I? What is the sun? What is the stars? Where are the birds? And night comes night, darkness. So they were thinking about all kinds of things in ancient times. You start creating spirits, demons, gods, and everything to explain everything that happened in the planet, our environment. You have to explain it with something. So the gods were created with our brains, and so were the thousands and thousands and thousands of religious beliefs to create them. And we use for communication languages. Languages. There are 8,000 languages spoken on the planet. So we use languages to communicate thanks to the FOXP2 gene that we evolved mutated primates have. That's the reason we can communicate with thinking, and we can empezamos a hablar toda clase de idiomas si quieres. Vielleicht wir mit Deutsch sprechen in diesem Moment, oder le langue française aussi. And then, you know, we communicate with all these sounds, and we create concepts in our brains. And we can express them much later when writing was invented, and before that epigraphy and pictographs. We start developing our concepts in stone with pictures, and later on more organized script and languages. But now I come to Palm Sunday. Vegetation. The plants that remain alive and they are immortal, that never die. And you know what those plants were? This. we have the evergreen pines, pine trees. They never die. They couldn't figure out why they didn't die. And of course also, this is a small one, palm tree. Little palms. And the pine cones have these little things that you find in all ancient epigraphy, and especially the Roman Empire. You find these pine cones. Life. The same thing applies to eggs. Eggs are sacred. They carry life. Our scrotum, our penis was sacred. It's like the rays of the sun god that come around and fertilize the eggs, and they were equated with the snakes. The lady's breasts, they look like eggs. They look like the scrotum. They couldn't figure out why a woman had this scrotum, these eggs that shoot milk in here. And that's what support life. So the vagina was in itself considered Venus. It was the stars that gave us life, and it was personified as a beautiful lady with a teeth. Like you see in many sculptures, you see Inanna, you see Ishtar, you see the many goddesses, and they put wings on them because the wings go like birds to the spirit world, which is where the planets reside. I'm getting into that, into Palm Sunday. Bear with me. I like to explain these things. Using the brain, because remember, when I'm explaining you these things, I'm using the brain, and the ancients also had brains. They tried to figure things out. Now we have all the science and a lot of stuff, a lot of knowledge we have accumulated, and we can figure things out much easier. So in truth, to understand a lot of this stuff, we have to think like an ancient person. Put yourself in the shoes of an ancient Roman, for instance, over 2,000 years ago. And you beginning to understand things, because when we use our brains, we should cogitate, connect, deduct, verify, connect again, and then the truth will slowly emerge. But you have to always keep in mind, don't forget that, the brain is creative thinking. And the brains will make you, and you have to reject all the fairy tales, you have to reject the constant bombardment of fairy tales and deluded beliefs. They're constantly hitting you. That's like a schizophrenia of the brain. That's like an HIV of the brain. When you have belief in God and believe in the spirits and the eternal world, what happened when I die? You have to think logically. Like Mr. Spock. You have to think logic. The brain creates thinking. When the brain gets sick, doesn't function correctly, or is infected with viruses, it will give you the wrong information. Take some drugs and you'll see what happens. Or put some eye drops and see what happens. Your vision will get blurred. You cannot see correctly because of the chemicals. Well, all religions, which is a schizophrenia, is a condition of the brain. Religion is a mental illness. It's one of the schizophrenias. But 40,000 years ago, primitive men still had a brain, and you thought, you had a penis, you have a vagina, you procreate the same way, through coitus, and then you ate, and you defecate, and you urinate. And you thought, and you were wondering, and you get influenced by substances, but you didn't know at the time what they were. You had no idea what the spirit was. I mean, the air was. And now we know that the air, this force, is nothing but oxygen, it's gas. And which is called in Latin spiritus, breath. That's what it is. The heart is a pump. At the ancient times, the Egyptian times, they thought it was the repository of the soul. That's the organ we create thinking with. That's what the Egyptians believed. They had no idea about the brain. As a matter of fact, they threw it away during mummification because, makes everything rotten. So they preserve the body for 70 days, the rituals, and you kept it to be there and resurrect. And you have to put the heart inside of the body. That's the only organ left in the body for it to resurrect. That's what a lot of religions get the life after death from, especially Christianity. Christ psychosis. And the Abrahamic psychosis. There are different names, but there's still a mental illness. Psychosis. But then, let's go to the Roman Empire. Before that, the ancient people, 40,000 years ago, they had sex. What happens when you have sex? It entices you, and nature gives you orgasm, a pleasure that you receive in the brain, so you can do it again. And you have more babies and more kids, and you reproduce. All animals do it. So an ancient man could not explain that. So the gods did it. The sun fertilized the earth, so the sun definitely had penises. And where were the penises? Rays. And it was equated with snakes, because our penis looked like a snake. Say. And worms. And then you compare the vagina to oysters, because a lot of the shapes are very similar. And snails, and all that. So you equated all these bunch of things. But when you are in caves 40,000 years ago, and you get turned on by things, pheromones in the air, and you want to have sex or procreate, that is sex, but you also take entheogens like atropa belladonna and many flowers and mushrooms like psilocybin and all that. It creates all these visions, it dilates your pupils, you can see inside of caves, and you produce these images of the gods in caves using your hands, and you put your signature. And the signature is your hand saying, I did this thing. So you put pigment in your mouth, and you spit, and you put all this. That's why so in old cave paintings, you have all these pictures of hands all over the place. That's their signature of the guy that did it. You see, and you have all these pictures. But you have the sex, you have the visions, so you have the orgasm, and everything was done by the stars. Because everybody believes that the stars were the gods creating everything, giving you orgasm and all that. So you start personifying everything. 40,000 years ago. All the religions start getting organized in Egypt 6,000, 7,000 years ago, in Ur, present day Iraq, ancient Babylon, and all these different things. And then you have the Roman Empire. And all the time they couldn't figure out why the palm tree didn't die. Vegetation died during winter, the snow comes in, they thought everything was going to die. The sun got into the west, dies in the west, and the Egyptians say, we have to do all this sacrifice so they resurrect in the morning. The Pharaoh has to have some sexual system, worshipping the penis of the Pharaoh and all that in simulacrum, and you simulate to do that. You have a barge through the Nile River, you have fertility rites during the time of, which is called now Christmas, or Saturnalia. That happens in December, November, and all that, the winter solstice. The death of vegetation. And then he resurrected in the spring. And then, of course, I couldn't figure out the palms. And all this represents life. So, therefore, in the Roman Empire, thousands of different rituals, 15 different type of gods, the day of the weeks were gods, And of course, when you are victorious in the field, you thank the gods, which is the penis, is sacred, and anything that goes to the gods, you put wings on it. And the penis, there is a symbol of Pompeii. You have a winged phallus, and this is a god because it has wings. This is not the Virgin Mary with the baby Jesus. This is Isis with Horus. It's a long story on this thing. And you see the sun god here, and you see the horns. Because the horns are equated with the penis. And that's the reason the bull is equated along with the snakes. The snakes are like the horns of the sun god fertilizing the earth, equated with the penis. So there's a lot of symbolism in here. And you see she's holding a breast. She's going to shoot milk. And the milk was equivalent to the penis. So the lady's breast was equivalent to a scrotum that we males have. That's why, our sperm accumulates and all that. And this is the reason in ancient Egypt, this is men. Have you noticed something very different here in men? See, these are feathers. But everything is equated to the sun god with wings. But notice, and he has a flail. But notice his penis. Isn't it something missing in here? Do you notice something missing? You know what that is? It doesn't have any balls. It's missing the mammary glands. But it doesn't have any mammary glands here because they thought the males didn't have balls because that belonged to females.
So the god men and many others were represented without balls.
And that is in many cases represent the goddess Artemis. For instance, you have many eggs, which is equivalent to the scrotum, which is equivalent to lady's breast. So you have a mixture that people are very confused. They had no idea why the glands, the mammary glands shoot milk. Babies, you feed from it, and then actually the male penis, the glans penis, when it opens up and it shows, the skin moves up and then the propus shows out, just like, that's the reason you have it in hats, in helmets. It's actually the penis. Uncircumcised penis, you disrobe the god, and it has one eye, and it shoots like a snake, and it shoots semen and fertilizes things. So, you know, if a woman have the race of the sun god and all that, you say, oh, he's the son of God, because the baby was born and nobody realized about coitus that well, and they thought that the race of the sun god fertilizes. So the Pharaoh's daughter, or the Roman princess, or all that, and that was the gods.
And that's what you have, a virgin birth.
You see, Babylonian, you have the Sphinx, and you have, in Greeks, also the same thing, wings, because anything that goes to the sky, you put wings on it. And that is a fact. Now, Palm Sunday, the Roman emperors, the divine emperors, and I start with Julius Caesar.
The son of Venus.
In truth, Jesus Christ is nothing but a title. Like it's Moses and Ramses and Solomon and all that, they're titles. They're not people. The people held the titles. So Julius Caesar was the son of Venus, Maya, and Julius Caesar was the sacrifice. In other words, he was killed, 23 stab wounds, and everybody says the god is being killed. And he was, actually his wax image was put in a tropaeum, which is a cross, and you can see that in his coins. You see this coin right here. This coin shows a tropaeum, and I will show you a few of those coins. And a tropaeum is actually, it's like a cross that you put in the field, and every time you're victorious, and you put an empty armor, and the spirit of victory is inside the armor. So every time you're victorious, you put it looks like a mannequin on a stick. It looks like a crucifix, because the Romans never crucified people. There's no evidence. I mean, it's a lot of writing saying the crucifixion because distortions, but epigraphy, show me one epigraphy in Pompeii or a picture, an image of a crucified person, you will never find it, because it doesn't exist, because the Romans never crucified. In ancient times, you were not crucified. The cross represents this race of the sun god. The way you punish criminals by cutting their heads off and put them on pikes so nobody can see them. So crucifixion is a Christianity invention. It's a Psychosis invention. The people distorted everything, estimated the intellect, the dumb Christians. Psychos. Religion is mental illness. But anyway, so Julius Caesar, when he was victorious, before he was killed, he was defeating all the enemies, he had a triumph after defeating Gaul. And during the triumph, one way that you actually honor the victorious emperors when they have a triumph, and they lasted 4 days, is by using palms. So you use palms, and every time they're in a parade with all the gods and everything, and the horses, and bringing all the booty, and a tropaeum, because they have tropaeums also, in there with all this gold and all that stuff. You take the life, the symbol of eternal life, which is the palms, and also the gift, and you take these branches and this is what Palm Sunday is, because they're confusing. The Passion of Jesus Christ is actually, it was the title of Julius Caesar. It's very confusing, but Jesus was Caesar. So therefore the Passion of Julius Caesar became the passion of his title of Jesus Christ, or Archerios Megistus. So Julius Caesar was the first Christus that was crucified, not crucified, but his image was put in a tropaion so everybody can see his wax image when he was killed. And, with gold nails and all that. And the crown of acanthus leaves, the thorn bush that used, because the thorns represent the sun god Apollo. So that is the reason, that's where the crown of kings come from. They have a little dot, points like that. It comes from that. So any victorious general will put a bunch of acanthus leaves, bushy crown of, and that would show that they were crowned by the sun god with this crown of thorns. So this something that you torture people and you torture Jesus Christ by putting a crown of thorns is laughable and stupid and ignorant because they don't know. But that's what Palm Sunday is. So Julius Caesar was received by this on a horse, with his face was painted with the blood of a bull. Because that's a religious ritual of the Taurobolium. So when you're victorious, you put that in. The Roman was extremely ritualistic and all kind of, because the religion was very involved and very, very, very involved. But the other thing interesting about it is that Julius Caesar had one of the consuls and a general that fought along with him, but was his friend. His name was Asinius Pollio, Gaius Asinius Pollio. And he was the founder of the first public library in Rome after Julius Caesar died, and he wrote about his life. But his name was Asinius Pollio, and Asinius Pollio means as cult. So eventually, during mutations later on, 400 years in the 5th century, 4th, 5th century, that's what the idea that Jesus Christ came into Jerusalem riding a donkey, an as cult. It was actually because of Julius Caesar being his life being narrated by Gaius Asinius Pollio. So it's confusing. It's like saying POTUS saved Uncle Sam from bankruptcy. And Uncle Sam represents the United States of America, and POTUS is President of the United States. So you say POTUS saved Uncle Sam from bankruptcy. If people are trying to find who POTUS was, you don't know, because it's a combination of American presidents. And of course, Uncle Sam is nothing but, it's not a person, it's actually a representation of the United States. So, that is the fact of it all. I only present facts with evidence to back it up. When you study anything like that in history, anything that you hear, don't forget to use your manual. How your brain works. You have to get educated, learn a lot. And always be skeptical. Don't believe what everybody tells you. Just connect all the dots. You have to cogitate. You have to connect. You have to deduct. You have to make all the deductions of everything and be skeptical, deduct. And then the truth will emerge. And then you'll see. Because I present nothing but facts, my friends. Just facts. This is Capun Piso. I hope you're enjoying this Palm Sunday. Pace Deorum.